SA Sports Show, interesting one. Something a little bit different. We've gone for go-karting this time. Yes, so the Angas Go-Kart Club.
Yep.
63, well, they started in 1963, so 60th year anniversary coming up this year for them. So we thought we'd get a couple of special guests in. Lisa Walker, David Earl, join us. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
Let's start with you, Lisa. What drew you to dirt go-karting?
Dirt go-karts, yeah. My dad raced before I did, and then when I was probably 9, that's when I got into it. And so sort of the last 20-odd years, I've been involved in somewhat. And my sister also raced for a while there, so it's a good family sport, really. Yeah.
To jump from dirt car to sprint car, where you are now, how did that, tell the viewers how that evolved for you?
It was all a bunch of opportunities, really. From dirt karts, I moved into Formula 500s, which is another speedway category. I was lucky enough to drive for someone, and then basically started my own team, and then a few years later, I got approached to race a sprint car, which is just unreal because they're wild. So I raced for them for a couple of years and then just slowly built my own team up.
This amazes me, this place. I was reading up on the Angas Go-Kart Club. Yep. And anybody that can go 60 years has done a pretty good job anyway. So, but from where you started, I reckon it's a great story. It's a great story. But what I want to know is it's about the track. The track seems over the years to have altered in length and where, not so much, it's always been in the same place, but why the change in all the lengths of the track?
Basically, over the years, the go-karts or the motors have been improved, so there's been necessity to sort of adapt the tracks to suit the karts.
Suit the karts, okay.
We've gone from a smaller track, which was originally a speedway circle, into a dog leg that we use now, and we've actually lengthened the track itself to allow a bit more speed and to open it up so that there's more opportunity to pass on the tracks.
Interestingly, when you first started, there's a little practice track on the right-hand side where the guys used to not warm up. They would try to start the motors because they were all made from the old Victor and Lawnmower or the Pope motors. Yeah. And if they don't start, they don't start. Basically, you're still out there. So that track was just to get the thing started. Yeah. And you know, when I read that, Phil, I thought about, you know, the amount of times I've gone
to pull the lawnmower out and start it. Of course, you're noted for your patience.
Well, I only ever did it once. 30 years ago, I mowed a lawn. But back then it was like, come on, you know, why? In this day and age, why can't they just go bang and start? But it made me laugh because I thought all these people on that side track wanting to get into the race, they're all out there trying to get their little mower started. I think that's a brilliant story.
Well, it's evolved a little bit since then.
It's evolved quite a bit. Yeah.
So we still do have them, Barry.
Oh, you still do them,
yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Only in the juniors.
Yeah.
12 clubs. You're one of 12, so it's bigger than most people think. You've got a couple of monster events coming up. The Blue Ribbon event, of course, on the 2nd of September, then Club Champs, 4th and 5th of November. So when you talk about those events, how many drivers would come through over that journey?
For that particular event?
Yep.
Well, it depends on what's going on and what the weather's like, etc. But generally we would get somewhere around about 130, 140 carts on one of those days, which would be, you know, a pretty good size. Yeah. We've just had the state championships, so the numbers will drop away a little bit for a while until people get re-energised and rebuild their gear. We'd be looking 120, 130.
When you talk about rebuild the gear, so Baz has just given an overview of just before the dinosaurs froze, how you used to start the cars to where you are now. What's the expense? You know, obviously the better cart's more expensive, but if I brought my 7-year-old son along, what would it cost me to get a cart that would suit a 7 or a 10-year-old to drive versus a 20-year-old?
Well, if you're going to go into a second-hand cart, you could pick one up ready to run, probably for $1,200.
It's pretty cheap, isn't it?
Dollars.
I mean, I'm not saying $1,200 is cheap, but it's based on all sports you play. It's not that dissimilar to
motorsport. It is the cheapest motorsport that you can possibly get.
Yep.
You know, as you go up into the bigger classes or other types of motorsport, it gets very expensive.
So at that age, that car would go maybe 25 k's. We were talking about. What's the fastest that karts go now?
Somewhere around about 120, 130 if they get the big tracks, like down at Tatiara, they've got a big open track. So
it feels a lot different though when you're that low to the ground. And maybe it's a question for you. You know, when you're low to the ground, you feel like you're really flying versus as you come up. Does it feel much faster in the kart than it does in the car?
The car feels faster because it is so much faster, but in comparison, yes, when you're so close to the ground, you are carrying a lot of speed as well. So,
is it scary? What's the scariest thing for you over the journey? I mean, obviously you can roll, and clearly you assume you haven't broken any bones or too many bones. But
no, considering, I mean, the safety equipment it has improved a lot over the years as well. So there is always the chance you're going to have an accident or roll. I mean, a lot of us have done that, but in comparison, it is a pretty safe sport. I mean, kids as young as 5 do it. So yeah. Well,
it fascinates me that you're doing it in dirt when there's nice tracks. So obviously there's the challenge of doing it on the surface is what makes you a specialist driver in that field. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. How different from that to track driving?
It is exciting too, because the track will change from one heat race to another, so you've got to be able to adapt and change your kart setup. But also, compared to the bitumen karts, you don't have to go out and run a million practice laps to get that extra tenth, because you're not really chasing tenths. Track changes, there's different lines, and it's exciting racing.
Dave, you were president for 6 years. What was the biggest change for you in the journey over 6 years with the go-karting, mate?
Oh, I think probably from a club point of view would have been our rearrangement of our track, where we lengthened it, and we've been aiming to improve our facilities over that period of time, and we've now got a shelter that goes over our outgrid, and we're looking at moving forward all the time. And it's great that we can get people around. We've got a lot of houses around our track, which has been a new thing for us, but we do own our club. So, it's about development and keeping in good with our neighbours.
Yeah, I was reading up on a few of the people that have passed through Angas go-karting, and one that just jumped out obviously is Todd Hazelwood, the V8 supercar driver, who we've had on the program.
We have.
We've
Todd's
had Toddy in here. But another one that jumped out was the Todd Wigsell.
Yes.
Now, the Wigsell name to me, and I show my age here, but Rolly Park, I go back to Billy Wigsell, who was I think he was a hero amongst a lot of people at Rolly Park. He wasn't a bloke who got out in front and just led. He would come from 20 back and win. He was one of those guys. He was a bit of a hero. Yeah. So that's a relation. Toddy Wigsell, Billy Wigsell.
Yes. Yeah. That's Bill's son. Yeah.
Wow, what a driver he was! What a driver he was. But most of a lot of the guys that race in the V8 supercars have that sort of background, don't they? A kart background, or not necessarily dirt kart, but like Toddy Hazelwood here. But a lot of them start there, don't they? At that level.
It seems to be that the more people you see go through the motorsport industry, the more seem to have started in dirt karting.
Yeah.
At least, and then progress to bitumen karting.
Well, it's racing, isn't it?
It's racing.
I asked Lisa how she got drawn to it. How did you get drawn to it?
I lost a bet.
You lost a bet?
Well, my son was wanting to join. We had a good friend said we'd lend you a kart to see if he likes it. And I said, well, if he does well at year 12, I'll give it consideration. I'll buy him a kart. He did well in year 12.
Yeah.
And then after a few meetings, we were there, and I got tired of pushing him out, and I thought, he's having too much fun. I've got to go and join it. So away we went. I ended up buying a kart myself.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've got a couple of big events coming up. As I said,
massive events.
If people want to find out, because they'll forget between now and, of course, September, November, best way to log on to something. That's the way you do it.
On our Facebook page, www.angusgokartclub.com. We'll have everything up on our website as well, and we will be promoting it. We've been given a great grant from the Alexandrina Council to promote the event, and we hope to draw some big numbers there.
Well, I'm sure
And
we'll
the council
chat,
on board, that helps.
No, I'm sure we'll have you in to chat about it before it happens. Lisa and Dave, really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Stay safe while you're driving.
Thank you.
And hope it keeps going great for you.
Yeah.
Stay with us. Still plenty to come.